Hello, welcome, and good evening on this beautiful Tuesday evening. Welcome to Insight Sports Talk with your host, Johanna-Rosalye. And I am joined with by my amazing co-host and great friend, Ed Cole. Hi,
Dun,
Ed. How's
dun,
it
dun, dun,
going?
dun, dun, dun. I come from behind the stage. Here I am. Good evening. What's up, sis? How are you?
I am wonderful. How are you?
Doing great. There's so much sports going on right now. It's oozing out of our heads, right? There's so much stuff. Playoff baseball and playoff women's basketball. We got the WNBA finals, NFL, and NBA is kicking off next week. How can we not be in seventh heaven right now with everything that's going on sports wise?
Definitely. You said it. It's oozing out of every single place you can think of. I there's just so much sports, Ed. I just don't know how to get a grasp of it. Like it's amazing. First last year at this time there was like nothing going on other than The Last Dance, Michael Jordan and that documentary on ESPN and some stuff here and there, but I mean, we're just watching some stuff for fun, but now it's, I'm just almost overwhelmed with having the NBA finals, which just wrapped up, over the summer. We have WNBA, which that went into that, and now we have the what WNBA finals, which we'll talk a little bit about shortly. We have MLB and the postseason is here, which we'll also cover. We have what else do we have? We have the NFL, and then we have an extra week now that's been added to the season. We have boxing. We've had soccer or football, like I love to call it. We have just had so many sports and so much coverage. It's just one after the other, and it's almost hard to keep up with it.
It really is incredible. As you mentioned, year and a half ago, you and I were just kind of sitting here like, well, gee, what are we going to talk about on tonight's show? And now, look, there's
But
no
we made it
shortage of.
work.
Yeah, we made it work with what we had, but now the show really creates itself because of everything that's going on right now.
Yes, and we have just news after news. We have the NBA, we have preseason. The NBA season kicks off next week, just as the WNBA season wraps up. Like, it's just all back to back to back to back. I love it. I love sports, but sometimes I just, I don't know if I should get some sleep or just stay up all night and because we go to sleep and then we have breaking news that happens and you wake up in the morning and it's like, wow, I can't, I'm like, what? Like it was quiet 5 hours ago.
Well, Joanna, you're a human just like I am, and the rest of our viewers and listeners. So I think you would need some sleep just like the rest of us in order to operate as a normal human being and not fall flat on your face at work. So sleep is paramount, especially with what
it does help. Yes.
especially with you covering the WNBA finals and what else is about to come down in your career. You need some sleep, girl.
But do I really need some sleep?
Yes.
I guess.
Oh, okay. Go one night without sleep and see what happens to you. See what happens when you get to work the next day. Go ahead and try it.
I can do one night. I can do one, maybe two. I can't do more than that.
No. Try to do it the whole week, Joanna. See what happens to you.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. See what happens to you on Friday night.
I'll be walking come day 3, 4. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Literal sleepwalking. But just a warning, just as last time, our last show, if you hear any squeals, clapping, or yelling or screaming, don't be alarmed. Everything's fine because just as the last couple of shows, I'm sitting in front of the TV as we're doing the show here because of course I am an addict to sports. So we determined that I have an addiction, and I have the Dodgers and Giants game going on in front of me in my big TV. So
As do I.
depending on what happens, it's what will be coming out of this beautiful voice you hear tonight.
This is something, Joanna. After the two games we saw today with the Milwaukee and Atlanta and Chicago and Houston, that series, both of those series wrapped up. This series can wrap up tonight if the Dodgers don't come back and win. They're leading right now 2-0. So clearly, this is a must win for the Dodgers if they want to extend it to a Game 5 and go back to San Francisco with a chance of potentially going on to the National League Championship Series against the Atlanta Braves. So tonight it's huge for them. Up 2-0. They got to be able to keep this lead and get this victory and square up the series.
Yes, yes, indeed. And just one thing, just be very, very happy that this is not the Boston Red Sox game that's going on tonight, and then that actually happened last night, because that would be a whole entire different story.
Yeah, with two consecutive walk-offs. Yeah. I'm
Jeez.
sure you were an absolute wreck last night. What a great series that was.
I just had to contain myself as much as possible because I do not want to get a noise complaint from my neighbors, because we all know how much I love my Boston Red Sox. So there's been some moments to where I'm like, okay, I'm jumping and screaming out of all the excitement that I tend to have many, many times in sports. But last night I was actually, I contained my emotions. But once we go to have the ALCS commence on Friday afternoon, then that's all out the window. I will say that.
Yeah, you may have to.
But since we're talking baseball, Ed, let's go ahead and kick it off. But go ahead and mention what you're going to say.
I was saying you may want to go to your local establishment, your local pub somewhere, and watch Game 1 in Houston. Come 5:07 when that first pitch goes off for the ALCS. You might not want to watch it at home, because I've watched you in action when we were watching your Gonzaga Bulldogs. I know how crazy you can get when it comes to your team. So you may not want to watch it at home Friday night.
Yeah, but we'll see. A few more people are getting to know that side of me, and I know one of my friends, my good friends, got to see that side of me on Friday night as we were watching the Mercury game and clinched their spot to the WNBA Finals. So that was definitely fun and excited, and yeah. That place was popping. But since we're talking baseball, let's go ahead and kick it off with some MLB and what has gone down in the postseason. Let's go ahead, since we already know what's happened with these teams. At least three out of the four matchups, we know what the outcomes are, and I'm not gonna play favorites. Let's go ahead and talk about Houston Astros and the Chicago White Sox. I am so sorry, PLR. My condolences to you and to the Chicago White Sox and our good friend Sean Sierra as well. I know there are diehard White Sox fans, and unfortunately, they went down to the Houston Astros 3-1. That series did wrap up earlier today. But news there, Ed, which has been the talk since yesterday and on to today, is with allegations of cheating from the White Sox and the Houston Astros stealing signs. And we're getting back into that story, unfortunately. And this is something that we've talked about even when the season started and as we were going closer to the postseason as well, is that's something that we expected, and that's probably not going to go away for the Astros, or at least for those team members that made part of that team at that time. And we're hearing it, and we're hearing it the chants from the fans, as well as some of these players such as Altuve or Correa come up to the plate, and those chants being cheaters. But and just going back to what's being said, it's there's been some sketchy stuff going on there. It's from one of the White Sox players that mentioned that last night, and then the wonderful Dusty Baker was asked about it and questioned, and saying just blunt out saying that we're just here to play. So but yeah, that's unfortunate, Ed.
It is, and they'll never be able to live that down. Even though that happened 4 years ago, the Houston Astros, no matter what they do, no matter where they go, they'll always be remembered for what happened in 2017 with that cheating scandal, with the trash can banging and all that stuff that went on there. And whatever happened with their championships and all their successes will always have an asterisk by it, won't it, Joanna, because of what happened 4 years ago. And I'm sure once they get to Boston for Game 3 of the American League Championship Series, you know how ruthless those Boston fans can be. So just wait until Altuve and Bregman and Correa and all those guys come to plate at Fenway. It's going to be something else come Game 3 of the ALCS. They'll be okay at home. They'll be safe at home. But once they get to Boston, I mean, all bets are off on that one. You know, they're going to those Boston fans are relentless.
Oh yes, you said it. We know, like I was well, as a Boston Red Sox fan, I know that, but I actually have a good friend, and that's also in the industry, and he's out in Boston, and he was actually there, yes, last night when they went ahead and clinched their ticket to the ALCS, and that place was just rocking, like literally, and just from seeing his video from his social media postings, you know, you can just even feel the energy, and just I don't know, like it just oozes. And being the Houston Astros going, and when they do play in Boston, you know, you like you said, Ed, it's going to be all bets are off, and they're gonna go hard on them. So I'm really curious how that's going to go down as far as, you know, that aspect goes. But it's going to be a great series, and I'm very excited for it. I wish it could have been the Boston Red Sox and the Chicago White Sox. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. But yeah, the Tampa Bay pretty much didn't. You know, they left it all out there on the field. I thought that they probably might come back and be able to win last night's game, because it did end in a tie, and then ended up going on a walk-off, back-to-back walk-offs for the Boston Red Sox. But just Tampa Bay was just not enough for, you know, what they did to come up with the win. But you know what, Ed, I do want to go ahead and mention this player, and I'm gonna say I did forget a little bit about him this last season, couple of seasons, and that's Randy Arozarena.
Yes.
So he's just, you know, and I'm glad that he was able to go ahead and shine this season again in the playoffs, because, or in the postseason, he's just has so much talent. And he just, I don't know, it's just, I don't know how to describe it. He just has like he's just one of those players that has like a vibe. And he, like, you can tell he loves the game, and he goes out there to play. He plays hard.
He does, but unfortunately for him and for the Rays, he really struggled in that Boston series, especially the last 3 games, Joanna, the last 3 where they were swept. They won Game 1, of course, in Tampa. Then they lost Game 2 in Tampa. Then they lost the 2 in Boston. He, in those 3 games, he went, let me see, 2, 3. He went 4 for 13 in those 3 games, games 3, 4, and 5. So offensively, he was nowhere to be found for Tampa, and I'm sure that really hurt them. But when he was on, he was magnificent. Of course, we saw what he was able to do for Tampa last year, getting them to the World Series, and how special and spectacular he was in those series last year. But man, he's still a phenomenal talent, isn't he?
He is. I love watching that guy, and I can believe that I forgot about him a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, and I do feel bad about that. So, you know, just if you haven't seen this guy, you know, guys, go out there, go search for him, do a search, watch some videos. 'Cause this guy, you know, he's one of those postseason stars. You know, during the season he may not make a lot of noise, but it's the postseason. Like, even if on those games, like you said, Ed, you know, he you know, he didn't do as great as he wanted to, or he just came up short, or his team came up short. But he just goes out there regardless. He just goes out there and he performs.
Oh yes,
And that's
absolutely.
what I love about that dude.
Yeah, he's a special young talent, and the Rays keep him around. He's one of those cornerstone players that you can build around.
Yeah, definitely. But let's go ahead and go on to the NLCS, Ed. What do you say about that?
Let's do that. At least we have one half of it figured out. Let's see if the other half may get figured out tonight. If not, it'll get figured out in San Francisco.
Yeah, maybe. You never know. That, by the looks of
Maybe.
it, that's what it always seems. Because, you know, if you're noticing a trend here, Ed, if you haven't already, Boston won the series 3-1 against Tampa. The White Sox, or excuse me, let me switch that around. The Houston Astros won the series against the White Sox 3-1.
Yep.
We're going down up back to over here to the NLDS. We have the Atlanta Braves, who took over that series at 3-1 against the Milwaukee Brewers. That was decided on just moments ago, about maybe an hour or so prior to the Dodgers game. So all of these three matchups are ending in a 3-1 series lead. Right now, we have San Francisco leading the Dodgers 2-1. If San Francisco is able to go ahead and pull this game off and take the lead and win, they can clinch tonight a ticket to the NLCS at 3-1. But the Dodgers right now are taking that lead at 2-0 against the Giants, and the Dodgers are playing at home, so we know the Dodgers, they do their thing at home, and they're hoping to come up with the win. And right now, we do have the bases loaded, bottom of the third inning, and 1 out. So there's that update for you. But we know the postseason, and we know baseball. Anything can happen.
Yes, anything can happen, and it usually does.
Yes, indeed.
And so I think whoever comes out that's going to face the Atlanta Braves, that's going to be a tough series, because Atlanta, they've won, I believe this is like their 5th straight National League Championship series they're going to participate in. I know Houston, this is going to be their 5th straight American League Championship series. I don't know if this is the 5th straight for Atlanta, but still, they're back in. No, this is not their 5th straight, but
right.
Yeah, but still, Freddie Freeman gets a home run in the bottom of the 8th inning and propels Atlanta to the National League Championship Series. How great is that for the face of the franchise to lead them to the National League Championship Series with a bottom of the 8th home run to win the series for Atlanta? That's great. So October baseball is the best.
That was crazy how that went down, and I actually got to catch just a glimpse of it, because that's when I was actually getting home and walking in, and I turned on the TV and turned on the game, and I'm like, what in the world? I'm like, Freddie Freeman, like, he just got himself at least another year with the Braves.
Yep.
So yeah, that was a great series, and I did see the Braves advancing in that one. They just have a great team and put together. They're just have the tools. They're able to go ahead and just go out there, get on that field, and it just they're just something. They have something special, and something that we haven't really seen out of the Braves in a few years too, Ed.
Yeah, and this is the team that had the least amount of wins of any playoff team in the race this year, 88 wins. Milwaukee had 95. That didn't matter. They won the National League East, and they got in because they're the East champions, and they won that series, as you mentioned, 3-1. It's just a dominant performance over the Brewers as they get ready to figure out whether they're going to go to Los Angeles or San Francisco for game 1 and 2 of the NLCS. That'll be pretty exciting for them. I'm sure they're watching the game. They're probably in the clubhouse right now watching the game at Truist Park, getting ready to figure out who they're getting ready to face. Do we get on the bird? Do we go to LA or do we go to San Francisco?
Right? Which direction do they take? But this San Francisco and Dodgers series is great and has not let me down, at least. But let's go ahead and get into some predictions. What do you say about that, Ed?
Let's do it.
Because I know we've asked everyone else their predictions, but we haven't made our own predictions. But I have them noted down, and I can tell you how far I'm, how good I'm faring out so far.
Okay, let's hear it.
All right, so let's go ahead and start with the ALCS, since we have that set in stone. We have the Houston Astros going against the Boston Red Sox, as we mentioned earlier. So there I am 50-50. Boston Red Sox, I did have them going and advancing to the ALCS, although they were seen as not a favorite, especially coming in as a wild card. No one thought, or many people didn't think that they were going to advance against the Yankees and that they were going to come down in that. And then Tampa Bay Rays, they were a favorite there, especially being number one over number four. So that was an upset there. But going down to the White Sox and the Houston Astros, that one, yeah, I did not quite get that one because I was hoping it would be the Sox versus Sox. Ed, that would have been so great.
That would have been red versus white. That would have been awesome.
Yes, yeah. And then I had hopes with Tony La Russa and what he had done so far for that team and the players and everything, and they just came down short. And Houston does what Houston does, and I do hope that those rumors are not true, because if they do come out to be true once again, then will definitely not be happy about that situation. So, however, going on between Boston Red Sox and the Houston Astros, I'm taking the Boston Red Sox.
And how many games? Makes you think, huh?
Yeah. I wasn't ready for that question, Ed. Notice the long pause.
While you're thinking about that, so the Giants got into that bases loaded jam, Joanna. That's huge for the Giants to get out of that, because LA could have broken that thing open.
Definitely. Oh yeah, that could have just totally been something else right there. Very, very ugly for the Giants. But I'm going to say this is really tough. I'm going to say 6 games. I think this is going to 6. Although I will not be surprised if it goes to 7, because that's very, very likely.
Mm-hmm. That's a great matchup, Houston and Boston. So you said who? Who are you going with?
To go on to advance to the World Series, Boston.
Boston, okay. Wow. Houston's they've got so many weapons. I mean, you saw it today. Altuve and Brantley, they were 6 for 11. They started off the game hitting so well. Bregman was 1 for 5. Correa 2 for 4. They got so much talent up and down that roster. Maldonado, one of the best catchers in baseball, even though he's struggling in the postseason. He's still one of the best catchers in all of baseball.
But you can also forget about Boston Red Sox and who they have too.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Like if you look up and down that lineup, and their pitching has just been able to go out there and throw some bullets too. So you have Kike, you have JD, you have Xander,
you got Schwarber,
Hunter
Renfroe. Oh my goodness gracious, Vasquez, Arroyo. Oh, you know what? I'm going Boston too. I think the Red Sox are a team of destiny after them beating the Yankees in the wild card playing game, and then you go and win 3 straight from arguably the best team in the American League outside of Chicago. You beat Tampa. You win 3 straight from them. I think Boston's on a major roll, and of course they're going to have to. They'd love to win 2 straight in Houston to start the series, but you're definitely going to have to. Worst case scenario, Joanna, go down to Houston and split that series if you want to come back and have a chance of winning that series and going on to the World Series. You've got to be able to split that series in Houston. You cannot go down 2-0 coming back to Boston for Game 3. But I think Boston is definitely capable of doing that, and I see it going 6-2. It'll go 6 games. I think Boston's going to win 4-2.
Yeah. All right. So there's that.
So we got we have the Red Sox coming out of the American League, right? Okay, we got that set.
Yep. So, all right, going down to the NLCS, which is halfway decided there.
Mm-hmm.
But can we really make a prediction though if we really don't know what's happening between the Giants and the Dodgers though? It's kind of hard to do.
No, because we don't have the second half of it cleared up. We can't really say.
I can say who I see and would see advancing out of the Dodgers and the Giants.
Okay, yeah, let's do that. So let's say Dodgers play the Braves or San Francisco plays the Braves. Let's play on both sides, whoever makes it.
So, well, out of here, I do see the out of tonight's game with the Dodgers and the Giants, I do see the Dodgers tying up the series 2-2.
Do they
So
win
Dodgers
game five?
winning tonight.
Do they win game five in San Francisco though?
Yes.
Mm, really?
I see the Dodgers advancing there. Not an easy feat. It's not impossible. It could happen. But
So
the Giants can that's going to be a duel.
yes. So if they win tonight, would they throw Urias out for game five? Would the Dodgers pitch him?
Yes.
I would think they would, right? Yes.
They're going to throw everything out there that they have in every single pitcher
Yep.
that they can go out there and pitch to win that game. This is going to be like a mini World Series for the Dodgers because they're going to throw out all their weapons just as San Francisco also will be doing the same. That's what I'm saying. This is going to be a duel, like do or die, literally.
Mm-hmm. So I could, yep, I could see Urias starting for the Dodgers and Alex Wood. The Giants would throw him back out there in a couple of days rest because, as you mentioned, there is no tomorrow after game five. If you lose and you go home, you win, you go into the NLCS and you welcome in the Atlanta Braves.
Mm-hmm. So who do you see advancing out of this?
Dodgers.
Okay.
It's LA. It's what they do, right? Would we not be surprised would we not be surprised if they win the next two games and they go into the NLCS? Not really.
Not at all.
Nope.
Then yeah, actually, when it comes down to predictions, I fare pretty well. So right now, I'm.
And that's
about 33%.
And that's no disrespect to the Giants. They've had a great season this year, and they're well deserving of going to the NLCS too. But it is the Los Angeles Dodgers. They always find a way come October to make magic happen, and this could be another one of those seasons for them as they're trying to defend their world title.
Oh, indeed. Very, very excited. So I can't wait for the Dodgers to win tonight's game and go on and see a game 5, which is going to be a little mini World Series matchup between the San Francisco Giants and the Los Angeles Dodgers on that next game. But all right, so I'm just saying one. I'm going to go ahead and give you my World Series prediction. I know we don't have the winner out of the Giants and the Dodgers, but who I see advancing between though them two, and then the outcome of this team facing the Braves. So that for me would be the Dodgers. Should the Dodgers advance?
Me too.
So I see a Boston Red Sox and a Los Angeles Dodgers matchup in the World Series, and that's something that I've seen since prior to the postseason starting.
So it'd be a rematch of the 2018 World Series, the series you guys won.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
That'd be so crazy for Mookie, to go up against his old team.
I know. As much as I love him, I still have to go with my Red Sox.
And I think if it is the Dodgers and the Braves, I'll pick the Dodgers as well. Even though I think Atlanta will give them a great series. That's a really tough, scrappy baseball team in Atlanta, but I just think the Dodgers have too many weapons.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Atlanta does come out and win to advance to the World Series, which that would also be great to see them. But that's whoever it is that they do face off is going to be great in that NLCS game.
No question, I agree. Yes.
But you know what that means once we get closer to the World Series, though?
That it's almost over. The season's almost over. Yeah. Oh.
So I will have withdrawals. I always do each and every year. So hopefully this year will be less, and I won't be as affected since there's so much sports going on. It will be felt, but to what gravity will it be felt? That is yet to be seen.
I think you'll be fine because we're getting ready to roll into NBA. We've got NFL rolling, and it's just too much other stuff going on for you to really be worried about it and to really think about it. It'll
It's
always be in the back of your
baseball.
mind,
It's
but
my
it's like
first love, Ed.
I know, but it has to come to an end eventually each season.
Oh, dagger. Ouch. That hurt.
It's the truth.
You could soothe the delivery out of that one a little bit more,
Nope.
That hurt.
Just like a band-aid. Just like a band-aid. Rip it right off.
That was
Right
worse than a
off.
band-aid. That was a dagger.
Uh,
All right. So, okay. Once we know who we have, our winner out of the Giants and Dodgers matchup, then we can go ahead and come back around and see where we stand there. Very, very excited right now. We still have a 2-0, top of the fourth. So we'll see what happens. I'm excited. Anywho, carry on. Let's go ahead and talk. So we're talking good news. We're having a good vibe. So I want to go ahead and keep that vibe going and get into a little bit WNBA, Ed. WNBA Finals. How exciting is that? That is just awesome. I am excited to see some badass women out there in the court just face it off and really they just grapple pretty much. Those ladies are scrappy. Right now we have the Chicago Sky and we have the Phoenix Mercury in the WNBA Finals. Chicago did take game 1 of the finals. That was really tough game for the Phoenix Mercury, and they know it, that they did not perform to what they could have, and that was just not a good game for the Mercury and not one of their best games. So they're gonna make some adjustments. They did seem tired in game 1. That game against Vegas, that last game, which they played in Vegas to go ahead and advance to the finals for the Phoenix Mercury. That was a great game. They came down literally to the last seconds to win that game and advance to the finals. I was right. Remember that game we were watching, which you just mentioned earlier, that Gonzaga game in the NCAA
yep, the
basketball
one we watched.
tournament?
Remember the one we watched at Twin Peaks? Do you remember that night?
Yes.
Yeah, you
So
remember that
remember
night, don't you?
how much
Yeah.
of a wreck I was that night?
Yeah, you were
That
absolutely.
was me Friday night.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So
I can see
yeah,
that.
But no, it was great. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like, I just manifested it, and had sent my prayers up to, higher source and higher power, and it actually happened. But anyways, going back to the game, the Mercury do play the Sky at Footprint Center tomorrow, Wednesday night at 7 p.m. following the Phoenix Suns preseason game. But I hope that this game is a little bit better for the Mercury, and then I think it's gonna intensify. It's already intense. They're already going out there, and you're watching some of the greatest women out there, Ed.
Oh, absolutely.
In basketball.
And for you, Joanna, you were able to cover game 1 of the WNBA Finals, and you'll be there tomorrow night covering game 2. You were there, and you saw that 18-0 run that Chicago was able to do. You saw them shoot 53%. You saw the Mercury struggle in that second quarter when they were outscored by 16, 26-10. You saw the 18 turnovers that the Mercury had, and I think it was hard for them, Joanna, because just 48 hours ago they finished game 5 against the Las Vegas Aces. And then they had to turn around and get ready for the Chicago Sky, who just knocked off the Connecticut Sun, the number 1 team in the league, to advance to the WNBA Finals. They just got on the charter flight, came out here, but the Mercury just finished in Las Vegas, had to turn around 2 days later and get ready for game 1 of the WNBA Finals. And give credit to the Sky. They came in there and did what they had to do, which is at least worst case scenario for them, get a split heading back to Chicago for game 3.
They need to get that split. They need to come out tomorrow, Wednesday, and do what they have to do. Chicago, they just came against the Mercury, and they had the great defense going on. The final score was 91-77. Mercury had a good first half. It was just that second half when the Chicago Sky came back out. And one of the things that too, I will go ahead and say and point out, there were some calls. Um, the refereeing could have been a little bit better because there were some calls that should have been called that were not as well, and vice versa. So I think that could have also, improved, and I believe that may have affected, the Mercury in the game as well. But we'll just go ahead and just coming down here to points scored. The Mercury scored 10 points in the second quarter. They scored best in the first and third quarters. Their second and fourth quarters, they scored 10 and 16.
Yes.
So that is not like the Mercury. Their rebounds, the second points, their opportunity there, that was just down, so bad from what we're used to seeing. They just weren't, wasn't there. They didn't have the assist as typically they would. They were limited on, points. Brittany Griner did have a better game this game one as, one of her previous other games, but still, it's still limited Brittany Griner to only 20 points. Even, Diana, who goes out there and she gets the rebound, she gets the assist, and even, with as many minutes she gets out on the court, she was still limited. The Sky still limited her, and she's one of the greatest guards out there. They only limited her to 17 points in 25 minutes she played up on the court.
Yes, give Chicago credit for doing all of that. And again, we mentioned a few minutes ago, they shot 53% from the field, made all 11 of their free throws, Joanna. And Sandy Brondello, the head coach of the Mercury, she didn't mince any words. She said, quote unquote, we were fatigued. She's like, quote unquote, I don't want to make any excuse. I don't want to make excuses, but we were fatigued. They were tired. They just finished vanquishing the Las Vegas Aces 2 days ago, and then they have to come back again and get ready for game one of the WNBA Finals against one of the best offensive teams in the league, one of the most stacked teams. You got Candace Parker and so many other weapons that Chicago has, and then Phoenix. Not to mention they're down two major players. They're down Kia Nurse, who tore her ACL, and they're missing Sophie Cunningham. She had a calf strain, so they're already down as far as personnel is concerned, Joanna. And then again, oh yeah, you got to take on Chicago, who had a couple of days off, got on the bird, came out here, and they're still coming off that high off of beating the Sun. And again, they did what they needed to do to get game one, and they got it. They stole it.
Yeah. Yeah, like, and you've seen, the Las Vegas Aces, and that series took a lot out of the Mercury. And that playing Las Vegas was not only physically challenging for them, it was also mentally challenging as well for both teams. And they went out and played all 5 games, so it was very, very grueling. And yes, they were tired, they were exhausted, and only having one day was not enough. Having 2 days is going to be, beneficial, is going to play a major factor. They're going to come out there, they're going to be refreshed. But one thing, Sophie Cunningham is expected to come back for tomorrow's game and go out there, and that's going to be an added piece to them, and hopefully that can benefit them and able to go ahead and overcome the Chicago Sky.
Oh, absolutely. Because if they lose game 2, if the Mercury lose game 2 heading to Chicago, that's not good. As you mentioned, they want to get that game 2 heading to Chicago. They don't want to be down 2-0, because once they get to Chicago, that's going to be a tall order for the Mercury to try to rally and come back and win that series, being down 2-0, because you've only got a finite amount of games in the WNBA Finals, Joanna. You've got to take advantage of every single one of them, and we'll see if they can do that Wednesday night in game 2.
Yeah, definitely. But one of the most exciting things that I've got to see in this WNBA Finals, and just the whole run of what I've been able to cover for the season. But on Sunday night or Sunday afternoon, the WNBA had a recognition of their top 25 players in the league all time. They made the presentation of jackets to the players during the game, actually on Sunday. And just being in the same building as them was just, it just gave me goosebumps. Even just thinking about it, and it just, I don't know, it's just something. And still to now, it's like, still can't believe that, um, that this happened. But I think it's something great. It's WNBA's 25th anniversary of the league. So a panel of select media, excuse me, and pioneers and advocates went ahead and selected the 25 best players of the league. Ex, athletes or ex players and current active players. And some of those included Sue Bird, Diana Taurasi, Brittany Griner, Becky Hammon, Lisa Leslie.
Yes, Lisa.
These are just, names that I grew up with. Candace Parker, who she plays with the Chicago Sky. Um, and she also played a little bit in her younger years with Lisa Leslie. We have Maya Moore. Just the list just goes on and on. But also just being able for the Phoenix Mercury to have active players who and still even not active players, but just the list that they have in just the Mercury itself, as many players that on that list is just extraordinary. And they're not the only one. We also have the Sparks. We have the Sky, who have multiple players on that list as well. So like we're just right, and we're seeing right now some of the best all-time playing women basketball players out there, making history and still making history, like Brittany Griner, Diana Taurasi, the White Mamba, even just Candace Parker as well. Just being able to go ahead and see these legends, and first, Brown Ballot Hall of Fame, and even UNESCO, just seeing her when she played, and she's just a rookie and starting off her career. Just being able to see these phenomenal women is just out of this world.
It is, because, as you mentioned, over the last quarter century of this league being in existence, so much talent, so many great, talented ladies that have come through this league and that are still playing in this league. As you mentioned, so many young ladies. I guess they're young compared to me, but and for Diana to be the number one, the greatest player of all time in the WNBA, what an honor it was for her to be named that right before game one. I'm sure that was revitalizing for a sense for her, because she's been through so much. Her and Penny Taylor just had another baby. They just got done with game 5, and she had to get back here to Phoenix for the birth of their daughter, right? Yeah, their daughter.
Yeah.
And then she has to play game 1 of the WNBA finals. Can you imagine how draining that had to have been for the White Mamba?
Like just it still just brings me like, I don't know, like chicken skin, like chills.
Oh, and Joe, for you, just talk about your experience in covering game 1 of the WNBA finals. I'm sure that had to have been an absolute blast for you to be there to cover such a great event.
Yeah, I do not have any words to describe the feeling, Ed, to be honest. Being it's my first WNBA finals, and just playoffs and everything. This year has just been a whirlwind of excitement, and overwhelmingly excited, because there's just been so many firsts this year. That includes the WNBA finals and I've gone to Phoenix Mercury games, been to basketball games in the past, but this year is just one to remember. And being able to go ahead and have two teams such as the Phoenix Suns and the Phoenix Mercury in the same city, be able for them to go to the finals, advance to the finals in the same year. It's something that hasn't been done since the Los Angeles Lakers and the Los Angeles Sparks, I believe 2006. So, and that's the only the other time that I recall ever happening. So, the energy was just, phenomenal. Being able to go ahead and just experience, seeing these, Diana Taurasi, these women, Brittany Griner, like I just mentioned, being in the same building is just I never expected myself to see that and be a part of this. And they're pioneers. They're paving the way for women, not only women, as a minority, but in many ways. Is There's, I don't know, there's just no way, and I cannot express, right now in words how meaningful this is, not only for myself but just for women in WNBA, and being able to go ahead and open many, many doors.
And I'm just proud of you for being able to again open another door. And as I'm sure there's other young ladies that are looking up to you that want to get in this business and be where we are right now, want to be you and have your own company and your own business and run your own show, for you to cover the WNBA finals, to cover a gold cup, to cover soccer's biggest and best event. And now you'll be at game 2 of the WNBA finals. It'd be great if you can go to Chicago for game 3. That'd be awesome if you could go to Chicago. But at least you covered the first 2 games of the WNBA finals. But sis, I'm proud of you that you're able to do that and you're living out your dream. And come game 2, you'll be able to do it all over again, hopefully, and see a Mercury victory.
Yeah. Yes. You're gonna make me cry, Ed. Let's not do that. Not live. Not on while we're airing and doing the show. Leave that for afterwards. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Very kind words.
Here's what we call a great segue into NFL. So the Suns had a great season. The Mercury are having a great season. How great is the season the Arizona Cardinals are having as we transition of another Arizona sports team playing really well so far?
Yes. Nice segue. Thank you, Ed. You totally read my mind. Not giving me any time to, rebuttal, but let's go ahead and dive in straight, head first.
Yeah, let's dive bomb right into it, right?
Yes, NFL. We have the good and the bad and the ugly that we do every week following.
And horrible.
And, well, hold on. Following each week of the NFL that's played. So we just wrapped up week 5. We're going to do our revised version of the good, bad, and ugly. This week is going to be the great, the bad, and the horrific. So we're changing it up a little bit.
Change the ticker. Let me change that ticker. The great, the bad. Okay. Let me fix it. The great, the bad. Okay.
And the horrific.
Okay, great.
But while you go ahead and do that, Ed, I'm going to go ahead and just kick it off. We're having so many great topics of conversation and so many great news and excitement. Let's go ahead and just continue that. And I want to go ahead and kick it off with the great of week 5. So I just want to go ahead and mention this again. I know I've mentioned it before, and we touched on it especially the last couple of weeks. And that's relating to the Phoenix, the Arizona Cardinals. They've played the San Francisco 49ers this past week. They won. They're 5-0. They are the only team that remains undefeated in the league. That game was not easy, and it was pretty much what I expected. I did not expect this to be a high-scoring game by any means. But I'm gonna say this, Ed. The Cardinals are still surprising me. That's one. Number 2, they continue to prove me wrong. And number 3, which is the best thing of all, is the Cardinals are the team so far, the team that I wish and I knew that they could be this season. And I hope that they do continue to be this team. So
me too.
I'm curious to know how much further they will be able to remain undefeated, because we know that schedule is not going to get any easier for them. But they've also, the teams that they have faced so far haven't been, a piece of cake either. But just going against the 49ers, because that's always a great matchup. And that San Francisco 49ers, they haven't been too shabby either. But I just have to give it up to the Cardinals. They're they've evolved. They continue to evolve. With Hopkins, they made the, with have JJ Watt, Kyler Murray, he's just on fire. He's just, I don't know, he's something else. And I I just have to give them a good round of applause and tip my hat off to the Cardinals, and not only to the players but also to the coach as well, because I think that also has a lot to do with it.
It does. The growth of Kyler Murray and how he has progressed and gotten better, and he looks more comfortable in that role as the starting quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals, and the talent that he has around him with Rondale Moore, the rookie coming in. There were so many questions we kicked around again. We talked about it a few weeks ago with B Train about the future of Larry Fitzgerald. What would the organization do without Larry Fitzgerald? Would they be able to move on? What kind of void would that have for the Cardinals if Fitz decided not to come back for the entire season? Well, it looks like he's not going to come back, but for them to, as you mentioned, D Hopkins, one of the best wide receivers, if not the best wide receiver in football. Rondale Moore, the rookie comes in, the rookie from Purdue comes in and he produces. Christian Kirk is out there blowing defenses apart. Chase Edmonds is playing really well from a wide receiver standpoint, Johanna, and a running back standpoint. You've got AJ Green, who's coming and played really well, the former Cincinnati Bengal. James Conner is coming. Great pickup for the Cardinals. He's coming and ran the ball very well, very effectively. He's been a great, powerful running back. We mentioned who can forget about them bringing J.J. Watt in, but also signing Matt Prater, the kicker for the Arizona Cardinals, was a stroke of genius for general manager Steve Keim, because we talked about it again a few weeks ago with B-Train, how this team has churned its way through kickers over the years and had no success from a special team standpoint. So for them to pick up one of the most accurate kickers in the National Football League history, Joanna, that's going to prove dividends, and it already has. And it's going to continue to prove dividends as we go through 18 weeks of football, that special teams are just as important as offense and defense, and everything is rolling right now for the Cardinals. But we'll see what happens on Sunday when they go to Cleveland against the number one running attack in football, against that guy, Nick Chubb, and against that guy, Baker Mayfield. That's going to be a tough game in Cleveland. We saw what they were able to do on Sunday against the Los Angeles Chargers offensively. The Cardinals better be ready for Cleveland. The Browns are no joke.
Yes, and with that note, I'm just going to go ahead and chime in on my last thing with the Arizona Cardinals. As great of a game and great of a season they've had, and they remain undefeated at 5-0. One of the things here, and we've seen it throughout their games, and they've made it work for them thus far with their passing game, with those passing yards, is the rushing and running the ball. They did have a little bit more activity this last week at 94, but you mentioned it, with going on to next week, that's going to be a challenge for them. Even with the Rams, as well, which they actually were able to go ahead and fare, pretty well. That's one of the things that I have in question for the Arizona Cardinals, is how they're going to get a run around that, because right now everything has been passing that ball.
It's going to be hard. It's going to be a ball control situation in Cleveland, because you do not want to have Nick Chubb out there running the ball. You don't want 24 out there like he was this past Sunday in Inglewood. He had 161 yards against the Chargers. You don't want that guy churning the ball. He's just like Derrick Henry. That's a guy that will bruise and batter your defense to no end. If you can't control the time of possession and keep that guy on the sidelines, and keep Baker Mayfield on the sidelines and all of his weapons, David Njoku and Peoples-Jones and Kareem Hunt, Odell Beckham is back with them. There's so many weapons offensively for Cleveland. If you leave those guys on the field, eventually they're going to burn you, just like they almost got the Chargers on Sunday.
Yeah. So, is that your grade as well, Ed, or do you have another grade?
No, my grade would be from that game in Inglewood with the Browns and the Chargers, over almost 1,100 yards of offense. That was a spectacular game that I didn't want to end. I wanted one of those teams would have to come out. I wanted both teams to tie. It was that great of a game, but Justin Herbert and the Chargers were able to pull that game out. That was a phenomenal football game. I felt bad for Mayfield and Chubb and those guys that they were not able to pull that game out, but that was a spectacular game. 89 points scored in that game between the Browns and the Chargers. What an entertaining, fantastic football game. That is my grade.
It's a high scoring game, 42-47.
Mm-hmm.
Yeesh. All right. So are you ready, after so many great things we've talked about, get into not so great things to talk about now?
I knew we'd eventually have to go in that rabbit hole. So yeah, let's do it.
We'll get out of it. Don't worry.
With our last 5 minutes of the show, let's go back in that rabbit hole. Let's go in the hole
All right, let's get in the hole. You can just jump in real quick
and
and
jump
jump
out.
right back out.
That's
All
right.
right. All right. So for the bad, I'm gonna go ahead and just make it just rip off the band-aid. That was the Kansas City Chiefs. They're letting me down. They're not the team that I expected them to be this season. I don't know if what's happening, if it's a funk that you're just going through, if what's going on with Mahomes. I just really don't know, and I have to give it up to the Bills. They're 4-1, but the Kansas City Chiefs, they're 2-3. So just I have no idea what is happening because they're putting up the yards, they're putting up numbers out there. I don't know if it's chemistry, what it is that's going on, but I hope that this is not the Kansas City Chiefs that we get to see this season, because I know they are better than that. They've done better than that, and then they can get out of this, because if not, if they can't get out, if they can't get out, then they're just going to, I don't know what's going to happen after the season. That's my major concern, and that's pretty bad. Not knowing what type of game that they're going to come out and play.
Mm-hmm. And they talked about that on the NBC broadcast on Sunday, Joanna. They were trying to figure if that Super Bowl loss, if that really affected them, the loss to Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. Are they still feeling after effects of that loss in Tampa just earlier in the season in the Super Bowl? Are they still carrying over feelings and just lingering feelings from that loss?
You can't let that happen if that's the case. You can't let it linger. Okay, yes, you took a loss. I know it's hard and it's something, it's like ripping something out of inside of you, but you can't bring that out into the season. You need to, it's your mentality, go out. Okay, you know what? Let's do better. We didn't get it. Let's do better. Let's perform better. As horrible as that may be, it's not going to last forever. And then, hey, we didn't do it this season. Let's go ahead and go back out there. Let's go ahead and get back to that Super Bowl next season. Come out. And you know what? Even let's do one better. Now let's go ahead and bring that trophy home. You can't let that affect it to you in that way, in that extent.
I totally agree with you. Yep.
So I don't know what's going on there. They need to shake it off, because if they don't shake it off, this is the Kansas City Chiefs that we're going to see. It's not good. And then we're going to come out back and see once during the off season, that team is not going to stay the team that they were during that Super Bowl season.
And Joe, it's only going to get harder because the Chargers are getting better. We saw what Buffalo did in Kansas City to get that win. The Bills are for real. We know they're for real. Baltimore is for real. We saw what they were able to do on Monday night against the Indianapolis Colts. As I segue to my bad, which was that game, Indianapolis blowing a 16-point lead in the fourth quarter. That's my bad that they were not able to close it out at M&T Bank Stadium last night, and they let Lamar Jackson just go off on them for 3 straight touchdowns, as he was magnificent last night against Indianapolis. That was a spectacular performance by the Baltimore Ravens, but Indianapolis not being able to close it out in Baltimore on Monday Night Football, that was my bad. And that was their bad.
A whole lot of bad. But you know what's worse than bad?
The horrific.
I mean,
not it's ugly. On the screen. You see it on the screen.
Not ugly, but horrific.
Yeah, and it just on the screen.
Me to say it. Can you see the face and can you tell my voice? It's like,
yeah,
not good.
You hear that?
It's sour taste. And it's gonna get even more sour because I don't even want to say this, but my horrific, it's not only a game, but it's also a situation. It has to do with Las Vegas Raiders. So just to kick it off with the game, they played the Bears on Sunday night, or Sunday, not, sometimes Sunday.
Sunday afternoon, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right, yeah. So anyway, so they lost that game against the Bears, 20-9. They only scored 3 points in the first quarter. They didn't score anything second and the third. And they go on to the sixth, and I mean the fourth, and they score 6 points. So they, for to have the Bears, no offense, but it's the Bears. And the Raiders, they've been playing pretty great, and the team that they have, they they tanked it. They were just bad. I don't know if it's maybe the situation of what's been transpiring, which has to do with John Gruden, which is the horrific that I'm leaning into as part of this. If that's taking some effect and a toll on the Raiders organization, and now he has, he no longer has a job as of today. There's been more news that has been involving out of that, more emails that are being retrieved, coming to light of things that has been said or comments that have been made, more of what we already know in that scope. So, and learning this is just horrible. It is not okay, whether you put it in an email, whether you talk to it about someone, whether that's, you know, the current era that we are in, because everything is digital, and everything is just so accessible, versus, something that could have been said many, many years ago, is just blend out not okay for this. And then one of the things too that makes it even worse, that not only that, but we also have athletes, ex-athletes, players who played with him or played under him, whatnot. It's they're speaking out about the experience being around him, and that's just not, that makes it even worse. One thing that's makes it even more, horrific. He's no longer in the Ring of Honor with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's been removed. So this is altering his life in all shapes and all forms. So that's the horrific out of this week 5.
Yeah, I would second that. That situation with Gruden and those emails that are coming out. Oh, and the NFLPA is now requesting all 650,000 emails that came as a result of this situation in the investigation into the Washington football team, Joanna, and Gruden's emails to Bruce Allen, who was one of the front office personnel for the Washington football team at the time. That was part of those 650,000 emails. Those emails that he said, with the comments he made about NFLPA Executive Director DeMaurice Smith, and what he said about Roger Goodell, the NFL Commissioner, what he said about Michael Sam, the openly gay player that the St. Louis Rams drafted back in 2011, or was it 2014? They drafted Michael Sam, but back then when they drafted him back in 2014, when they drafted him, the stuff that was in those emails, it was horrific. It was sickening to see what the New York Times, when they posted the article, and what Gruden actually said in those emails. It was absolutely sickening. I got sick to my stomach just reading that stuff, to think that in these days and times, Joanna, this stuff actually still goes on, and someone like John Gruden would have those kind of thoughts and express those things like that, and not think it would not become part of an email trail, and somebody would not keep that in their records, and it would not come out eventually and not damn him and destroy his career, which it absolutely has. I don't see any other NFL team hiring him for any type of position in their organization as a result of this. He's completely destroyed his career as a result of a few stupid emails that he should not have done. If he has those kind of thoughts, keep it to yourself. People are going to think that. People are always going to have those kind of thoughts about someone like you, Joanna, or somebody like me. But keep it to yourself. You're in a position, you're a head coach of even though at the time he was working for ESPN, still, you're affiliated with the NFL, Joanna. ESPN is one of the major partners of the National Football League, and you're going to come out with these kind of emails and these kind of nasty, homophobic, and racist kind of emails and thoughts, and you're going to talk about people like that and think it won't reach the light of day, which it has. And now your career is destroyed. And now the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have pulled you from the Ring of Honor. You no longer are the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, and you probably won't get a job at all in the NFL anymore. What team in their right mind would hire John Gruden now? Nobody.
Mm-mm. Not at all. So it's just very, very saddening and disappointing to see, to hear, to know of this, and I just don't have really any words. And right now, he's ticking all of the boxes in a bad way. So, and I'm not, you mentioned some of those, and I'm not gonna go down that list because that list is just too large, too extensive. But you know, I I I just don't have anything else to say about the situation. I've said it, and it's just devastating.
It is. It's so unfortunate that that came out, and those kind of thoughts and um, those kind of negative, really destroying and damning kind of feelings are actually still permeating in our society.
Yes,
Let alone
unfortunately.
Joanna, let alone Joanna in the National Football League, a league that we love, in a sport that we love. It's not going to kill our love and our desire for the game of football, but it sure hurts it. It hurts us to our heart
Oh,
as
yeah,
fans of the National Football League and media members that cover this stuff.
it damns it.
It does.
Pardon the language, but it does. It's just point blank. Um, do you have anything else to add to the horrific before I pull us out of this rabbit hole and bring some happy news into this?
Nope. Let's get out of the hole. Pull us out of
All right,
there.
let's get out of the hole. So we have Los Angeles Dodgers. They are leading 4-1 at top of the fifth. Excuse me, I needed to make sure that was right. We have runners on third and second and third for the Giants. So we have two outs. Um, so this is starting to become a game. Giants are having, a little bit of fight in them. So we'll see what happens. We still have plenty of game to play
Absolutely. There's at
or
least four
watch.
more. There's at least four more innings of baseball, if not more, in this game. It may go beyond 9 innings. Who knows?
Shh.
Oh, shh.
Ed. As much
I
as I
love to
love
see,
baseball, but I would really like to go to bed at a decent hour today.
but unfortunately, the Dodgers and Giants don't work on your sleep schedule.
Hmm, just thought I'd mention it. So it's still early enough. They have about another couple hours before it's, out of my decent sleep schedule.
Oh, remember you weren't going to sleep tonight, so this is the night you don't sleep. Let's try
Oh,
that
that's
experiment.
right. I'm not sleeping tonight. Thank you for the
Yeah.
reminder, Ed.
And let's see how you do at Game 2 of the WNBA Finals tomorrow night.
Oh,
See if you can stay
just give
awake
me
for that.
some adrenaline and some, just excitement and happy stuff. I'll be fine. Put me
Oh
into
yeah.
something that's not so fun and boring, then it'll be this snooze fest. Just
Oh
to
yeah.
let you know.
Once you get the Footprint Center tomorrow night, you'll be fine.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I'll be fine. Eh, not my first rodeo. You know, running on little to no sleep, so I'll be good.
Meanwhile, I'm going to sleep like a baby tonight. Stay up all night if you want to. I'm going to sleep.
Well, thank you, Ed. Nice to
Yeah.
know. I will be sure to
Yeah.
call you at 2 a.m. and wake you up. Uh,
That's when I have this thing called Do Not Disturb on my phone. Oh yeah, there it is.
mm-hmm. I'll find a way. Don't worry. So you can join me in my no sleep night.
Mm-hmm.
But we have run out of time, Ed. As much as I know we could, and we know we can and have talk sports for another hour. We have to
Well,
go.
I know Dodgers just got out of that second and third base jam mid fifth inning. They got out, only didn't give up a single run in that inning. Great for them.
Yeah.
Dodgers would have
As
dodged
much
a
as
bullet
I
on
would
that one.
like to go ahead and continue to give live updates and just do the broadcasting here for the Dodgers and the Giants, unfortunately, we can't do that because I know we're just leaving you, halfway through. So
And we don't have
we
the
are so
broadcast
sorry
rights
for
to it.
that.
And we don't have the broadcast rights to it. So
Right.
we got to get
Exactly.
out. We have to
Yep.
say goodnight.
We do have to say goodnight. But do look at your cable listings to know where you can find the games and the scores and etc. All
Yes.
right. So Ed, before we say goodbye to our awesome people, go ahead and let them know where they can find you.
Of course, on Twitter at EdCole43, Instagram at EdwardCole301, right here on Inside Sports Talk with Brother PLR on the Sports Cave, and Facebook, Edward Cole.
All right. You checked off all the boxes there. You can find me, Johanna-Rosalye, on both Instagram and Twitter at JRosalye. That's JRosalye. You can find Insight Sports Network at Insight Sports Net on Instagram, on Twitter at Insight Sports, add an extra S at the end, and then make sure that you do go ahead and follow and subscribe to our YouTube channel and download and listen from wherever it is you do listen to podcasts as well, and on KSRN Arizona. And thank you, everyone. This was Insight Sports Talk. Until next time.